Hi, this is Tamara from mooglyblog.com, and in this video, I'm going to be demonstrating how to crochet the Caron Hourglass crochet hat, which is a free pattern you'll find on Yarnspirations.com. To make this pattern, you'll need one Caron Colorama Ogo. I used the blue Mustang colorway shown here. You'll also need a USMN 9mm crochet hook or the size that gets you gauge. It's also helpful, of course, to have your usual crochet supplies, stitch markers, yarn needles, and scissors. As you can see, this hat also has a matching cowl pattern available on Yarnspirations.com, but this video is going to be for just the hat. Before we begin, we need to open our Caron Colorama Ogo. So to do that, we simply take off the label, and if you'd like, you can set aside the section on the bottom right there, which has all your yarn info. Then we need to have a pair of scissors on hand and find the point at the bottom where you can see that you can pull the two sides apart. The yarn is all connected and each color goes right into the next color throughout, but we do, of course, have a beginning and an end. So as we pull this apart, that right there is what we want to look for, that little plastic tab. I'm just going to use one hand to sort of hold onto that and hold my space. And then I'm going to use my scissors to go ahead and snip that line. Then I can go ahead and just pull that right out of my Ogo. So from there, I'm ready to go ahead and start crocheting. Or if you do want to break it up and use specific colors, you can go ahead and pull those colors apart and use them in the order desired. Let's take a quick look at the finished hat. This hat is crocheted from the bottom up, meaning we start with the brim and then work our way up towards the top. If desired, you can stop at round 8 of the crown shaping to create a pony style type of hat where the top is left open for a ponytail to come through. Or of course, you can finish it up as written and add a pom-pom if you like. When I was crocheting this hat, I did specifically use the different colors of the Ogo, taking it apart so that I could change colors and get equal division of stripes, basically equal division of the colors across the hat. But of course, you can do it however you like. You can work straight through the skein, or you can break the yarn and change to the new color as described. Now, here you can see a partially used Caron Colorama Ogo. I used this one when demonstrating the cowl, so I'm starting on a slightly different color. But as you can see, the color distribution for these can be very different from skein to skein. So feel free to take it apart and start at a specific color if that's what you'd like to do. For our demo today, I'm just going to continue using this skein where it lays. So to begin this pattern, we start with a round of foundation double crochet, 48 in total. Now there are a few different ways to make foundation double crochet, but this is how I do it. I start with a slip knot on my hook and then chain 2. And then I am going to yarn over and insert my hook in the back hump, not the back loop, but the back hump of that very first chain I made. Then I yarn over and pull up a loop. Now you see I have 3 loops on my hook. This one is going to be the chain at the bottom of our first foundation double crochet. So we yarn over and pull through just the chain to begin our stitch, yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So this is our first foundation double crochet. Since we're going to be working in rounds, I'm going to go ahead and put a stitch marker in. This will also tell me that when it's time to join with a slip stitch, I should join to this stitch and not to these chain 2 right there. Those don't count as a stitch. So to continue on with the rest of the foundation double crochets, yarn over, insert your hook underneath the 2 loops at the bottom of that first stitch, that little first loop we pulled out to make the chain. Now there's 2 loops down there. We can stick our hook under rather. Yarn over and pull up our loop. Now that loop will become the chain at the bottom of this stitch. Yarn over and pull through just that loop and finish our double crochet. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So let's do one more together. Yarn over, go under the 2 loops at the bottom of the previous stitch. Yarn over and pull up 1 loop to act as our chain at the bottom. Yarn over, pull through just that loop. Yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2. So continue that until you have a total of 48 foundation double crochets. If you prefer to avoid the foundation double crochets, you can simply chain 50, skip the first 2 chains, which will not count as a stitch, and crochet in each remaining chain. However, I do recommend that for patterns like this, where it's a hat and you want a stretchy brim, that you use the foundation double crochet because it does give a much stretchier finish than the chain. Now this hat is sized to fit an average adult, so here I only have 24 foundation double crochets. I'm going to be making about a half size version for our demo today. Again, on the full size version, you'll want 48 foundation double crochets for your first round. So when you've made your 48 foundation double crochets, I would like to suggest that you go ahead and put a stitch marker in the last stitch before you join to work in the round. This way, as we continue working our rounds, we won't get mixed up and mistake our slip stitch for a stitch, and we won't end up adding extra stitches. So to join in the round, what we want to do, as you can see, I've kind of flipped it over here and laid it out flat. We just want to make sure that we don't get a twist in the brim of our hat. So we can bring these ends together and slip stitch in that first foundation double crochet or double crochet that you've made. There we are. So I've got my slip stitch made there, but as you can see, this leaves the bottom of the brim of our hat kind of open with a gap there. So what you want to do when you're all done, or whenever you're ready, whenever you like to stop and weave in ends, go ahead and take this tail end, put it on your yarn needle, and simply sew in to the bottom of that last stitch made before you weave in your ends, and that will close up the bottom of your brim. So for now, we'll continue around for round 2. Round 2 is going to start with a chain 1, and then we're going to front post double crochet around the first stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and take this stitch marker out of the way for now, and we can make our first stitch. Now remember, that chain 2 right there does not count as a stitch. This right here is our first stitch. So to make a post stitch, we yarn over, and we come from the front of our work around the post of that stitch, yarn over again, pull that loop behind the post, and then complete the double crochet as normal. Yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 2. This is our new first stitch of our round, so we want to go ahead and put our stitch marker in this one. And then we can just move these up as we go. Our next stitch is a half double crochet in the next stitch. Now, one thing to keep in mind, unless you are doing some shaping, which at this point we're not, we're just going straight up the sides, you will not end up generally working into the stitch behind a post stitch. Now, there's always exceptions to the rules, so you should follow the pattern you're following. It might have you work around the post and in the top of the stitch itself. But unless the instructions say specifically to go back and work in that same stitch, you leave the top of that stitch behind the post stitch unworked. We've worked around the body of it, so that stitch is considered worked. So you want to make sure that you come to that second stitch for that first half double crochet. Otherwise, you'll end up increasing, and we're already as wide as our hat wants to be. So then we're ready to begin our repeat, those same 2 stitches all the way around. This creates the crochet ribbing for our brim. So foundation double crochet around the next stitch. So we've worked into the top of that stitch, so we come over to this one, and from the front, come around the stitch, pull up our loop, and work a front post double crochet. Then half double crochet in the next stitch. So continue this all the way around until you've worked all the way around for round 2. Okay, so here we are at the end of round 2. You can see I moved my stitch marker up into that last half double crochet, and I've joined with a slip stitch at the end here to finish up that round. So now we're ready for round 3. For round 3, we do the exact same thing we did in our second round. We're just going to extend our ribbing a little bit longer for a really great stretchy brim. So again, we chain 1, and then we work a front post double crochet around the front post double crochet right below. So now it's even easier. We can just slip right under the post of that previous post stitch and make a double crochet. Don't forget to still move up your stitch markers. There we go. And then, of course, pull up a little bit more yarn here, and then we have a half double crochet in the next stitch. So make it easy for this round. Front post double crochet around your front post double crochets, and half double crochets in your half double crochets. Join with a slip stitch at the end, and I will see you when we're ready for round 4. So now that I've got my new color ready to use, what I want to do is join with that new color. It's going to give us the cleanest color change for our next stripe. So I'm going to insert my hook in the stitch I would normally join to here. And I'll just lay that end right over my hook. Pick up my new yarn here, color B. You can see that a little better there. Come in about 6 inches or so. Just drop that right over my hook. Pull that loop through and through that stitch to make our slip stitch. Now, I always like to just sort of tug on those two ends, get those nice and tight in there, and then I'll drop them inside and weave those in when I'm all done. And now we're ready to continue with round 4. Round 4 is very simple. We chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch around. Make sure, as always, to move up your stitch markers to your new stitches and then simply join with a slip stitch at the end. So we're just single crocheting in each stitch around, but I do want to point out that when you work into these post stitches, you'll see I work just under those top 2 loops. Don't try and jump down to the top of the stitch underneath. We just work into the tops of those post stitches the same way we work into the top of any other stitch. So work a round of single crochet for round 4, and I'll see you for round 5. Okay, so here we have our hat after round 4, at least our small version. You can see we've done our brim, and now we've worked 1 round of single crochet. Round 5 is going to be exactly the same as round 4. Chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch around again. Then in round 6, we'll start adding those hourglass cables. So we have finished round 5. We now have 2 rounds of single crochet here at the top of our hat. So we're ready for round 6, and this is where we're going to start adding those hourglass cables with that great shaping. So to begin, we start with a chain of 1, and then we work a single crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. So we want to make sure to go right back into that marked stitch, of course, here for our stitch number 1. Move that stitch marker on up. There we go. And then single crochet in the next stitch. Then we work a front post double crochet around each of the next 2 stitches 2 rounds below. So remember, we've worked 2 rounds of single crochet, so that means we're going to be going around the first round of single crochet. So these are just a little bit more difficult to read since we're going 2 rows down. So go ahead and take your time. Find the next stitch and see the stitch it's worked into. That's the stitch that we want to go around for our first one. So we go in on one side and up on the other, just as we did when we were working around double crochets. Then we yarn over and pull up that loop and finish our double crochet. Now we need to do that again around the next stitch. So very easy, just come right over to the very next one and work another front post double crochet. We finish that off with a double crochet in each of the next 2 stitches. Again, we want to make sure that we skip over those stitches in back so we don't accidentally end up increasing here. So we just work 2 post stitches. So 1, 2, making that right there our next stitch. So 1 and 2. And that is our repeat for this round of the hat. 2 single crochets, 2 front post double crochets, 2 single crochets. So let's go ahead and do one more of those repeats together. We start with 2 single crochets, 1, 2. You'll notice since we start and finish with single crochets, that means we always have 4 single crochets together there. Then we've got our front post double crochets. Find the next stitch, find the stitch it's worked into, and go around that one. So there's 1. And then right around the next one. There's 2. Make sure you skip the 2 stitches behind it there, or rather the tops of it, since you did work around the ones below it. We skip over those. We come to the next one for a single crochet, and then 1 more single crochet. So continue that repeat all the way around for round 6 and join with a slip stitch. Round 7 will be just like the previous rounds of single crochet. In between our rounds from here on out of cable, we'll have simple rounds of single crochet. So continue around for round 6, and then for round 7, a round of single crochet, and I'll see you when we're ready for round 8. So now we've worked through round 7. Round 6, we started our cable pattern here with pairs of front post double crochets, and round 7 was simply a round of single crochet again. And again, make sure you're working to the tops of all those stitches, including those post stitches. So now we're ready for round 8, where we're going to start with a chain 1, and then work a front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet that is 2 rows below. So first and foremost, I'm going to go ahead and actually leave this stitch marker here, and I'll show you why in a moment. It'll make it easier as we continue on. But I'm going to yarn over because I know I'm going to be making a double crochet, and I'm going to find that first front post double crochet. Now that's all the way over here. You can see our hooks over here, and here is where we're going. So this is part of the fun of cables. You can create that look by moving across basically the surface of your fabric. So I'm going to insert my hook right under the post of that post stitch and then make my double crochet. Now, when you're making these big moves like this, it's very easy for this loop, which will be at the top of your stitch, to become really loose. So to avoid that, I like to just keep those loops really close together. It helps so that that first loop doesn't get a bunch of tension on it and pull up and become really loose. Now, as you can see, this is the first stitch of the round. So normally I would go ahead and move that stitch marker up, but I'm actually going to grab a third one, I think, here, and mark this stitch now, because what we need to do next is skip over that first stitch. And because of the join and everything, it's really easy to think, oh, that's the first stitch, but we need to remember that that's the first stitch, because we're going to skip over that one because we've made our new first stitch. And then we are going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So as I say, it's just very easy if you don't have that stitch marker back there to accidentally end up over there, where right here is where you actually want to begin those. So I'm going to go ahead and get my hook and yarn straightened out. There we go. And make that one. So we've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. So with those made and our first post stitch there marked, and if it's pulling down a little bit, you can just make sure it's at the top of the post below there. With all that done, then I'm going to go ahead and remove that very first stitch marker. It's done its job. So I have made the first front post double crochet. Then I made these 4 single crochets, but we've got this second one, the second partner of those 2, way back here. So now it's time to come back and grab that guy. So we yarn over. We're going to make sure we still come from the same direction under that post and make our double crochet. And these 6 stitches, a front post double crochet around the first of those 2 below, then 4 single crochets, then a front post double crochet around the second of the pair, is our 6 stitch repeat for round 8. So let's go ahead and do another one together. We're going to yarn over, and now we're going to be jumping all the way over to this pair of cables. So we want to make sure to go under that first one. And again, I'm going to push my fabric together real nice and tight here so that those loops stay close to each other and so the top of my stitch doesn't get real leggy. There we go. Then I'm going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches, but I'm going to come back and look at the previous row so that I can make sure right there was where my last single crochet was worked in. So we need to skip 2 stitches for our post stitches, 1 and 2. So this is our next stitch right there. I just want to make sure we're not accidentally increasing. So 1, 2, 3, and 4 single crochets. And then it's time to come back and grab that last partner from the pair. Yarn over. Make sure you're still coming from the same direction under that post. Pull up your loop and yarn over and pull through 2 to finish off your double crochet. So continue this repeat all the way around for round 8, and then for round 9, another round of single crochet. So I'll see you when we're ready for round 10. So at the end of round 9, your hat should look something like this, although again, about twice as wide. We have split apart those cables now, and you can see we've got new pairs made. Then we worked our round of single crochet. So for round 10, we're going to start again with a chain 1, and then we're going to front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet 2 rounds below. Sounds familiar, but this time we get to go straight down. We don't have to stretch over for it. So we can simply yarn over and go right under that post stitch 2 rows below. So with that, I will go ahead and move up my first stitch marker. And then I am going to single crochet in the next 4 stitches. So I still want to make sure I skip over that one I joined to, but then simply single crochet in each of the single crochets from the previous round. Makes it a little easier to read your work and catch yourself there. Make sure you're always in the right spot. Then we front post double crochet around the front post double crochet 2 rows below. So we see that this single crochet was worked into that post stitch. We know we're in the right spot, and we make our front post double crochet. And that right there is our 6 stitch repeat for round 10. Front post double crochet, 4 single crochets, front post double crochet. We'll do another one together. Yarn over, go around that next front post double crochet 2 rows below. There we go. Now we need a single crochet in the next 4 stitches, but we want to make sure we skip the stitches behind those 2 front post stitches we just made, so that we can come over here and work our 4 single crochets. So there's 2, 3, and 4. Then front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet. And that is our 6 stitch repeat for round 10. So round 11 is, of course, another round of single crochet. Round 12 is exactly the same as round 10. We're just moving those cables straight up with the 4 single crochets in between. And then round 13, again, a round of single crochet. So I will see you when we're ready for round 14. Okay, so on our little demo hat, we're going to go ahead and skip to round 14. For round 14, we chain 1 and we work a single crochet in each of the first 2 stitches. In this round, we're going to be bringing the cables that have split apart back together. So we move our stitch marker up here for the first round, or for the first stitch rather, and then single crochet in the next stitch. And now we're going to front post double crochet around each of those post stitches again. So now instead of pulling them this way, we're going to be pulling them back in. So we yarn over and come back around that first one there that we've already sort of passed over. And then we front post double crochet around the next one all the way over here. There we are. Then we want to make sure we skip those 2 stitches behind our post stitches, find the next stitch, and work a single crochet in that, and a single crochet in the next stitch. And that is our 6 stitch repeat for round 14. Single crochet in the next 2 stitches, front post double crochet around the previous, the one you just passed, post stitch, front post double crochet around the next post stitch. Oop, there we go. Squish that together if needed. Make sure you skip over the 2 stitches behind those post stitches and single crochet in the next 2 stitches. And then, of course, round 15 is another round of single crochet. After that, we'll be ready to shape our crown. So now we're going to begin our first round of crown shaping. In the instructions, it says shape crown. So to begin round 1, we chain 1 and then single crochet 2 together. So that means working into those first 2 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and move my stitch marker out of the way. And then I can go into that first stitch and pull up a loop, and into the second stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through all of 3 of those loops, and now we've turned 2 stitches into 1 stitch. So we want to go ahead and put a stitch marker in the top of that stitch. And then we want to front post double crochet around the first front post double crochet 2 rounds below. So let's make sure that we can find that next front post double crochet here. We've got right there, it's right below that next stitch. So we're just going to be coming straight down for that one. Then we work another front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet 2 rows below. So if you stop and look, you can see we started out with that pair of double crochets that split apart, and then they're coming back together here as we shape our crown. Then we single crochet in the next stitch. So we want to make sure to skip over those 2. Get our single crochet right in there. And then single crochet 2 together. 1, 2, and single crochet in the next stitch. Then front post double crochet around each of the next 2 front post double crochets. So yarn over, go right around those 2 double crochets. So there's 1 and 2. Oop, there we go. So we have now completed a couple of our repeats, but let's do one from the very beginning, and I'll point out this is where the repeat starts with the asterisk. We single crochet in the next stitch, so we skip over those 2. Single crochet in the next stitch, then single crochet 2 together. So remember we had 4 in between our cables before. We're reducing that down to 3. Single crochet in the next stitch, and then front post double crochet around those next 2 front post double crochet stitches. So that is our repeat that takes us most of the way around for our first round of crown shaping. At the end, we'll come to 2 stitches left, and you just want to single crochet in each of those last 2 stitches. So at the end of round 1 of our crown shaping, we're going from 48 stitches down to a total of 40 stitches. After we do that for round 1, then for round 2, no more decreasing in that round, simply chain 1 and single crochet in each stitch around, just like we've been doing for the rest of the hat. So I will see you when it's time for the 3rd round of crown shaping. So now we're ready for round 3 of our crown shaping. We're going to start again with a chain 1, then we skip the first stitch and single crochet in each of the next 3 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and just let that sit there for a minute so we make sure to skip it, and then work 1, 2, and 3 single crochets. Now I'm going to go ahead and move that stitch marker up to my new first single crochet so I don't lose track of where I began this round. Then we are going to front post double crochet 2 together around this post stitch here and this post stitch here. So we're going to be bringing them back together here again. So we're going to yarn over, we go under this one right here, the most recently skipped one, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, stop with 2 loops left on the hook, yarn over again, find the next stitch, post stitch all the way over here, go under that post stitch, yarn over and pull up a loop. See, now we've got 4 loops on our hook, yarn over and pull through 2, and with 3 loops left on our hook, we yarn over and pull through all 3 to decrease those 2 cable stitches, those 2 post stitches, down into 1. After that, we simply skip the 2 stitches behind that decrease and begin again with our repeat. So let's do that together. That's the last stitch we worked into, so these 2 we skip. This is going to be our next stitch. So we begin with a single crochet in the next 3 single crochets. There's 1, 2, 3. Then we do our front post double crochet 2 together. Yarn over, find that one we most recently skipped over, pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through just the first 2, leaving 2 loops on the hook there. Yarn over again, find that next post stitch all the way over here, go under that post, yarn over and pull up our loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish that stitch. So you're going to continue that all the way around. When you get to that last rep, we're going to do our decrease over the last stitch and the first pair of that one. We grabbed the second one where we made that first decrease. We're going to come back and grab that one. So I'm going to do a little bit more here. You do some as well, and we'll come back and finish round 3 together. Okay, so here I am almost at the end of round 3. I've worked my 3 single crochets, and you can see I've got my last stitch marked there, but I need to make 1 more double crochet 2 together here over those 2 last cables that we haven't picked up yet. So we're going to yarn over and come over to that one we most recently skipped over. And of course, again, stop with 2 loops left on the hook. And now we're going to yarn over, and I just want to point out, we're coming all the way back over to this one, which is actually after where we started this round, but it's the one we want to pull all the way back over here. So don't let that confuse you. This one still hasn't been worked, but it's going to get used here in this last one. So when we've got 3 loops left on the hook, we yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish that stitch, and that becomes the final stitch of the round. Remember, now we're skipping that last stitch, and we skipped over that very first stitch, so it still works out. So before I join with the slip stitch, I still want to go ahead and move that stitch marker on up to the top of this stitch. You can see now there's just the 2 loops there, so we've made 1 stitch out of 2. So we mark that, and then we can go ahead and finish up with our slip stitch in the first stitch. So for round 4, again, we need to do a round of single crochet. So I'll see you when it's time for round 5. So I've finished up round 4 here, which was just single crochet, and it's time for round 5. We're going to start with a chain 1, and then single crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches. So I'm going to go ahead and get this stitch marker out of the way, go into that first stitch, pull up a loop, and go into the second stitch and pull up a loop. Yarn over and pull through all 3, and we'll mark this as our new first stitch for this round. Then we single crochet in the next stitch, and then we work 1 front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet 2 rounds below. So let's take a look at that. Here's our next stitch, and underneath that is the top of that double crochet front post 2 together stitch. So what we want to do when we make this stitch is we yarn over, and we're going to insert our hook under both of the legs of that stitch. Even though it ended up being 1 stitch because it's a decrease, we want to make sure that we go under both of those legs of the stitch, both of those posts that were part of it. Pull up that loop, and you can see how that really pulls the top of that stitch together nicely as well. Then we simply finish it off like our standard double crochet, like so. Then we begin our repeat that will take us the rest of the way around, which is basically what we've just done. We're going to single crochet 2 together in the next 2 stitches. Now, we just did a post stitch, so we want to make sure to skip the stitch behind it. So we pull up a loop in the next one and a loop in the next one for a single crochet 2 together. Then we single crochet in the next stitch. And then we front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet 2 together 2 rounds below. So we yarn over, make sure we go under the first leg and the second leg of that stitch, yarn over and pull up our loop, and finish the double crochet. So repeat that all the way around. Single crochet 2 together, single crochet, front post double crochet around that decrease. And that will take you around for round 5 with a total of 24 stitches. Round 6 is another round of single crochet. So I'll see you when it's time for round 7. Now we're ready for round 7. Round 7, we begin with a chain 1 and single crochet 2 together in the first 2 stitches. So again, I'm going to go ahead and move that stitch marker out of the way, go into the first stitch and pull up a loop, and the second stitch and pull up a loop. Then I will finish that stitch and mark it for our new first stitch for round 7. Then we simply front post double crochet around the next front post double crochet stitch 2 rounds below. So here's our next stitch. There's the post stitch right below it. So we go under that post and make our double crochet. And that very simply is our repeat for round 7. We single crochet in the next 2 stitches. Make sure you skip the stitch there behind your post stitch. So 1 and 2 for a decrease, and then a post stitch around the post stitch. So continue around for round 7, and at the end of round 7, you should have a total of 16 stitches. Round 8 will simply be another round of single crochet. Now, after round 8, you can go ahead and finish off your beanie if you would like it to be a pony style beanie with a hole in the top that you can stick a ponytail through, excuse me. We're going to keep going though and close up our hat. So I'll see you when it's time for round 9. Now you can see the top of my hat's getting really small here, but don't forget I'm working a half size version. So yours should be about twice as wide at this point. So it will be big enough for a ponytail hole after round 8, or you can keep going and make the hole smaller if you like. So we're going to continue and finish off our hat. For round 9, we start with a chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet / double crochet front post 2 together in each pair of stitches around. Definitely a mouthful, but we've been making these moves already. Now we're just going to combine them in a new way. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go into that first stitch and pull up a loop just as if we were making a single crochet. I'm going to go ahead and move this stitch marker right on out of the way for now. And now what we're going to do is we're going to leave that loop on the hook. We're not going to finish our single crochet. We're going to yarn over and find that next front post double crochet right down there. Go right around there, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2. And now with 3 loops left on the hook, we can go ahead and finish off that stitch. So we're decreasing, but the first half of the decrease is a single crochet, and the second half of the decrease is our front post stitch. So we're going to go ahead and put our stitch marker here in the top of our first one, and then we'll do another one here together. Now, we still want to make sure that we skip over the stitch behind our post stitch there, or behind our decrease. Then we go into the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, find that next post stitch right down here, go behind the post, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and then yarn over and pull through all 3 to finish the stitch. So continue that all the way around for round 9, and at the end of round 9, you should be down to a total of 8 stitches. So after round 9, unlike after our other rounds of cables, we're not going to have a round of single crochet. We're just going to finish it up with round 10 with a few more decreases. We're going to take our 8 stitches down to 4 by working front post double crochet 2 togethers over each pair of our decreases. So since our decrease was half single crochet and half post stitch, we're not going to worry about going under both legs. Ignore the single crochet and just pay attention to those post stitches from the previous round. I'm going to go ahead and take out that first stitch marker there, and we'll make our first front post double crochet 2 together. We're going to go ahead and start with a chain 1, of course. Forgot to put that chain 1 on there. And then we're going to yarn over and find that the post stitch of that first decrease there. Insert our hook, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, stop with those 2 loops on the hook because it's a decrease again, yarn over, find that next post stitch, the post stitch leg, if you will, from the next decrease, yarn over and pull up a loop, yarn over and pull through 2, and yarn over and pull through 3. You'll do that a total of 4 times around for round 10. At the end, you simply take your yarn, cut it off, leaving a little bit longer tail, and then you can use your yarn needle to sew through each of those last 4 stitches and pull that end closed to tighten up the top of your hat. So here you can see the top of the hat. It came down to 4 stitches, and I just used that tail end to sew through each of those stitches and pull the top closed. You can top it off with a pom-pom if you like, or you can just leave it exactly as it is. Now, once again, I did intentionally change colors, and that's included in the written instructions. You would change colors between rounds 3 and 4, and then again between rounds 8 and 9. And the next one would be, I believe, between 13 and 14. And then it looks like, according to the instructions, our final color change happens a little bit later towards the brim. But again, you can choose to work straight through the skein as we did on our example, or you can break it apart into the sections as you like. And that's how to crochet the Caron Hourglass crochet hat. Again, you'll find this free pattern on Yarnspirations.com, as well as a matching cowl. And be sure to give Yarnspirations' new Caron Colorama Ogo a try. It's a great yarn, and it makes making this hat a truly tangle-free experience. Thanks so much for watching, and don't forget to like and subscribe.